I've always been a light sleeper. Not in the cute. I wake up when the birds chirp. Wait, no. I mean the kind of sleep where your body rests, but your mind never shuts off. Like your brain's half listening for something, even when you don't know what. Maybe that's why I noticed it. I live alone in a one-bedroom apartment on the second floor of an old, red-brick building on the edge of town. Quiet place. Too quiet, sometimes. The kind of silence that makes the fridge humming feel obnoxiously loud. I moved here 2 years ago, after the divorce. My ex got the house, the car, the dog. I got peace. Or that's what I thought. It started 2 weeks ago. I remember because it was a Wednesday, garbage night. I'd just taken out the trash, came back up, made some tea, and sat on the edge of the bed, scrolling through my phone. I remember yawning and thinking, I'll sleep early for once. Around 2:13 a.m., I remember the time exactly, because I checked my phone. I woke up. No sound, no dream, no sudden jolt. Just woke. Eyes wide open in the dark. The air felt still. Not cold, just still. Like the room was holding its breath. I lay there for a few minutes, convincing myself it was nothing. Probably a cat outside. Maybe I forgot to turn off the heater. Something normal. Something explainable. I even chuckled at myself, rubbed my eyes, rolled over. And that's when I felt it. Like someone watching me. Now I know, everyone says that. It's such a cliché. But it's not the thought that got to me. It was the weight. Like a subtle pressure in the air. Not heavy, not loud. Just there. Unignorable. My chest tightened, even though I kept telling myself, out loud, there's nothing here. You're just tired. I clicked on the bedside lamp. The soft yellow light spilled into the room, and the feeling vanished like it had never been there. The corners of the room were empty. The closet door closed like always. Just the bookshelf, the desk, the half-full cup of tea, and the shadows playing gently on the walls. I stayed up until almost 4 a.m., scrolling through my phone, just trying to feel normal. Eventually, I drifted off. And by morning, the whole thing felt small. Dumb even. Probably stress. Work's been a nightmare lately. Budget cuts, looming layoffs. Everyone's on edge. That's what I told myself. Just stress. The next night, I went to bed later than usual. Maybe I was avoiding sleep, not consciously, but I noticed myself dragging out everything. Took longer in the shower. Scrolled through Reddit until my phone was hot in my hand. I even started watching some boring documentary on sleep cycles, like the irony might lull me under. It was 3:07 a.m. when I woke this time. Again, no noise. No nightmare. Just awake. And again, the feeling. It wasn't quite fear, not yet. More like discomfort. An alertness that didn't belong in the stillness of my bedroom. Like my brain was yelling at me through a thick fog, trying to get my attention. I sat up in bed slowly, blinking against the dark. This time I didn't turn on the light right away. I just sat there, breathing shallow, listening. The room had this low hum. I know that sounds weird. Not a sound, exactly, more like a vibration. Maybe it was the pipes. The building's old, built sometime in the late 60s. I'd heard weird creaks before, wood settling, radiator groaning in winter. But this felt different. It was so faint it made me doubt it was there at all. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, rubbing my hands together. My mouth was dry. I kept glancing at the space in front of the bed, that dark gap between the mattress and the floor. I don't know why I focused there. Nothing was out of place. But I had this weird idea that if I leaned over, if I dared to look, I'd see something I couldn't unsee. So I didn't. Eventually, I turned on the lamp. Again, the feeling disappeared immediately. Just blinked out of existence, like light erased it. I stayed up until sunrise. I told myself I was being ridiculous. I even Googled it. Waking up same time at night, feeling watched in sleep, sleep anxiety. The internet served me a buffet of half-helpful advice: stress, disrupted circadian rhythm, subconscious trauma, vitamin D deficiency. One article suggested I get more exercise. Another said to stop drinking caffeine after 2 p.m. One Reddit thread claimed it was just the body resetting its internal clock during REM. All of them made me feel a little better. None of them explained why I kept looking at the dark space under my bed like it was about to blink back. The third night, I made a show of reclaiming my space. I turned on every damn light in the apartment. Bedroom, kitchen, bathroom. I even opened the closet doors and looked under the bed, not because I expected to find anything, but because not checking felt worse. Like if I didn't face it head-on, it would grow into something bigger than it was. Of course, nothing was there. Just dust, a stray sock, and a notebook I thought I'd lost months ago. I laughed. Actually laughed. Said out loud, "See? You're being a damn child." I shook my head, grabbed a beer from the fridge, and sat on the couch like I'd beaten something. I stayed out there for hours, watching dumb sitcom reruns until I could barely keep my eyes open. At 2:42 a.m., I heard the sound. It was soft. Barely there. A whisper of movement, fabric against floorboards. My eyes popped open, heart thudding instantly. I lay there still, not even breathing, listening. At first I thought it came from the window, maybe the wind brushing the curtains. But then I heard it again. Shuffle. Pause. Tap. It was coming from the bedroom. I sat up on the couch slowly, holding my breath. I didn't turn on the light this time. I wanted to hear it. Make sure I wasn't imagining things. The hallway stretched out dark in front of me. The bedroom door was halfway open, casting a wedge of deeper blackness onto the hardwood floor. And I swear to you, in that black wedge I thought I saw something move. Just the faintest flicker of motion, like someone shifting position in a cramped space. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just stared. Eventually, I stood up and walked back to the bedroom. Not fast. Deliberate. I was sweating, even though it was cold. My throat was so dry it hurt to swallow. I stepped into the room, clicked on the light. Nothing. No sound. No movement. Just my unmade bed, the shadow of the desk, and the heavy silence pressing on my ears. I stood there for a full minute before finally crouching down and lifting the edge of the bed again. Empty. Absolutely, completely empty. But this time, I didn't feel relief. This time, I felt mocked. The next day, I was a zombie. Didn't shower. Barely ate. Work was a haze, emails blurred together, meetings drifted by like fog. I caught myself staring at nothing more than once, chewing on the inside of my cheek until it bled. I told a coworker I was having trouble sleeping. He cracked a joke about melatonin and Reddit addiction. I laughed. It didn't feel like a real laugh. More like I was copying the shape of one. That night, I left the bedroom light on when I got ready for bed. The full overhead light. Bright, harsh, clinical. I figured if the lamp made the feeling go away, then I'd just never turn it off. It helped for a while. I lay there, not exactly comfortable, but less on edge. The brightness was blinding at first, but eventually it just faded into the background. I even started to doze off. But somewhere around 3:10 a.m., I woke up again, and the light was off. I don't remember turning it off. I don't remember dreaming about it. I don't remember any movement at all. But it was dark, darker than usual, like the shadows had thickened while I slept. I sat up fast, adrenaline firing through my veins like ice water. My hand shot toward the lamp beside the bed, and I turned it on with a snap. And that's when I saw it. Just for a second, less than that maybe, as the light clicked on and pushed back the darkness. Two eyes. Low to the ground. Reflecting the light like glass. Under the bed. They vanished the moment the light touched them. Not blinked. Not turned away. Vanished. Like they'd never been there. I sat frozen, hands still gripping the lamp switch, my breath catching in my throat. My heart was hammering so hard it felt like it might shake the mattress. I couldn't move. I couldn't look away. I just kept staring at the edge of the bed, waiting. hoping I'd imagined it. But I hadn't. I know what I saw. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. Didn't move, barely even blinked. I sat there on the bed like a statue, the lamp blazing beside me, watching the gap beneath the frame like it was the mouth of some quiet animal. Around 6 a.m., the sun finally started pushing light through the blinds. I stood up, knees stiff, and backed away from the bed. I didn't check under it this time. I couldn't. I left the apartment without brushing my teeth. Got in the car, drove to a diner 2 blocks down, and sat in a booth by the window with a cup of coffee I barely touched. Just stared at the people outside like they were from another world, one where nothing watched you while you slept. That day, I called an old friend, Marcus. We used to be roommates back in college. He's one of the few people I still trust enough to talk about this kind of thing. I told him I thought I was losing it. He said all the right things. "You're just overtired, sounds like sleep paralysis, could be a trick of the light man." But I could hear the concern underneath. That slight pause before he said anything. The way his voice dropped when I mentioned the eyes. He told me to stay at his place if I needed. "Seriously, man. Couch is yours. Don't screw around with this stuff, sleep deprivation's no joke." I thanked him, said I'd think about it. I didn't go. Instead, I came home that night with a plan. Before going to bed, I cleared out from under the bed completely. Pulled everything out, boxes, books, old shoes, and shone a flashlight in every corner. Then I laid down flat on my stomach and checked every inch of that space. Nothing. Clean. Empty. I even measured it, just under 10 inches of clearance. No way anything bigger than a medium-sized dog could fit under there. And even then, you'd see the lump in the bed. Right. I went to bed that night with the lamp on, but this time I placed my phone on the nightstand, camera facing the bed. Recording. If this was in my head, I needed proof. And if it wasn't in my head, I needed to know what the hell I was dealing with. The phone was still recording when I woke up. That was the first thing I checked, before I even sat up, before I moved the covers. I reached out, grabbed the phone, and opened the gallery. It had recorded 6 hours and 42 minutes of footage. I watched the entire thing. At first, it was exactly what you'd expect, a still shot of the bed from a low angle. Soft lighting from the lamp. My shape under the blanket, barely moving. Nothing happened for almost 4 hours. And then, at 3:18 a.m., something changed. It was subtle at first. The shadows under the bed shifted, like the light dimmed just slightly. Almost like something passed in front of the bulb, except the rest of the room stayed the same. Then came the sound. Tap. 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 3 faint taps. Like a single fingernail on wood. They came from the lower right corner of the frame. Not loud, but unmistakable. A rhythm too deliberate to be random. And then, for just a second, no more than a few frames, the shadows under the bed deepened unnaturally. Like the dark got thicker, heavier. And 2 points of reflection blinked into the camera. Eyes. Just for a flash. Then gone. I rewound it a dozen times, slowed it down, paused it frame by frame. Every time, I saw the same thing. Just before the 4-hour mark, eyes under the bed. They didn't move, didn't blink, just watched. And the moment the light shifted back, they were gone. I checked the timestamp. 3:18 a.m. I'd been dead asleep. I sat back on the edge of the bed, clutching the phone, the video still paused on that grainy, flickering moment. This wasn't a dream. It wasn't stress. It wasn't in my head. I had proof. And suddenly, that wasn't comforting. It was worse. Because now I had to ask. What the hell was in my room last night? I didn't go to work that day. I called in sick, though I didn't even try to fake the cough. Instead, I spent the morning cleaning. Not normal cleaning, strategic cleaning. Like I was trying to regain control of the space. Like moving things around might somehow disrupt whatever had settled in here. I pushed the bed to the other side of the room, angled the dresser into a new position, pulled the rug out entirely, exposing the cold hardwood underneath. and I bought lights. 3 of them. 2 bright LED floor lamps from the hardware store, and one of those battery-operated night lights shaped like a puck. I placed one lamp on either side of the bed, the night light under the frame itself, right where the shadows used to gather. By the time I finished, the room looked sterile. Bright. Unwelcoming. I dared whatever it was to show itself now. I even said it out loud. "Let's see you hide now." That night, I set the phone to record again. Same position, same angle. I sat up in bed longer than usual, scrolling, pretending to read, pretending to do anything but listen to the silence pressing against the window panes. The lights buzzed faintly. Everything looked wrong. Like a hospital room someone tried to make cozy. But it felt safer that way. I finally fell asleep sometime after 1 a.m. At 3:22 a.m. I woke up. There was no sound. No movement. Just the kind of silence that makes your ears ring. I didn't sit up. Didn't reach for the light. I just stared at the ceiling, heart thudding, fully aware that something had changed. Then I heard it. Scratch. Scratch. A pause. Then again. Scratch. But not from under the bed. From inside the closet. I turned my head slowly. The door was shut, but not tight. Just enough that it looked like it could ease open with a nudge. I sat up, pulled the covers off, and stood. My feet felt glued to the floor. I walked over, every nerve in my body screaming not to open that door. I gripped the handle, counted to 3 in my head, and yanked it open. Nothing. Shoes. Coats. A few cardboard boxes. Still as ever. But when I turned around to go back to bed, something caught my eye. The nightlight I'd placed under the bed, the one that was supposed to stay on for 8 hours, was dark. Dead. When the sun came up, I didn't feel relief. I felt exposed. Like daylight just made me more visible to whatever was crawling through the edges of my room. I made coffee I didn't drink. I sat on the couch and stared at the hallway leading to the bedroom, like I was waiting for something to walk out. But nothing did. It never did in the morning. Eventually, I forced myself to check the recording. The video started normal. Me in bed, still as stone under the covers. The room lit up like a damn operating table, and for a while, I thought I'd finally scared it off. Almost 3 hours of nothing. And then, at 3:21 a.m., the feed glitched. Just a flicker. One skipped frame. Not a huge deal, could have been anything. But when the footage came back, the nightlight was off. I rewound it twice to be sure. It wasn't a slow dim, or a flicker. It went from on to off like a switch flipped. One frame lit. Next frame black. Then, about 45 seconds later, something moved, just at the edge of the bed. A soft shadow against the hardwood. Not a shape I could define, but it was there. Not dust, not a bug, not compression. Something was crawling. And then came the worst part. At 3:23 a.m., I saw myself in the bed. Still. Eyes closed. Breathing slow. And under the bed, in the bottom right corner of the screen. Those eyes. Same as before. Reflected light. Wide open. Watching me. Only this time, they didn't blink away. They stayed. 10 seconds. Then 20. I watched the whole time, hand frozen on the pause button. They didn't vanish until I stirred, just a twitch, a movement of my leg. That was enough. And just like before, they were gone. But not before. Not before they moved. Just a little. Forward. Toward me. I didn't sleep the next night. Didn't even try. I stayed on the couch, fully dressed, lights on, the phone in my hand, the TV playing an endless stream of noise I wasn't watching. Every creak in the walls, every shift in the building's old bones, made me flinch. I didn't look at the bedroom. Not once. But it didn't matter. Around 3 a.m. I heard something move. Not from under the bed this time. From the hallway. Just a soft step. Then another. Like someone testing how much weight the floor could take before it gave a sound. I stood up, quiet as I could, and stared down that hallway. It was empty. Still. But I swear to you, the air felt tilted, like someone had just stepped out of the way a second before I looked. And then came the whisper. Not words. Not even a breath. Just the sensation of sound. Like someone very close behind me had just exhaled through their teeth. I spun around. Nothing. But the pressure was there. That same suffocating weight I felt the first night. That being watched feeling, thick in my chest, my skin crawling like ants beneath it. I grabbed my keys, phone, wallet, didn't bother with a bag, and left the apartment. I drove. No idea where. Just kept moving. At some point, I ended up in a 24-hour laundromat, sitting in a cracked plastic chair under buzzing fluorescent lights, pretending I had clothes to wash. I stayed there until dawn. Just sat there, watching the dryer spin. When I got back home, the first thing I noticed was the smell. Something metallic in the air. Not blood. Not exactly. But close. Like rust and dust and time. I followed it down the hallway, heart hammering, stomach twisting, and found it strongest in the bedroom. Specifically, under the bed. I didn't check. I didn't get down. I just stood there, staring at the space. That's when I noticed something else. The hardwood floor beneath the bed. There were scratches. Long, thin, arcing scratches, as if something with nails, or fingertips, had been dragging itself in and out. That night, I did something I hadn't done in years. I took a sleeping pill. Not because I thought it would help, not really. But because I was starting to think the not sleeping was worse. I couldn't keep functioning like this. Couldn't keep pretending at work, couldn't keep driving around at 4 a.m., couldn't keep feeling like something was waiting for me to notice it. So I took the pill. Got into bed fully clothed. Kept the lights on again, all of them. And I told myself, you won't dream, you won't wake, you'll just sleep. But I did wake up. And I woke up, paralyzed. I've heard of sleep paralysis. I've read all the threads, the ones with the shadow people, the ones where they say your body is asleep but your brain's awake. I always thought it sounded terrifying. Turns out, it's worse than that. Because when I opened my eyes, the room looked exactly how I left it. Same angle. Same light. Same covers twisted around me. But I couldn't move. Not even my fingers. And I could feel it. That pressure. That heavy, almost greedy weight under the bed. Like something crouched and coiled. Watching me breathe. Then, slowly, I felt the mattress shift. Not a lot. Just a subtle give, like weight was being added on the opposite side. My heart pounded so hard I could taste it in the back of my throat. And then, I swear to you, I felt fingers. They brushed my ankle. Light. Delicate. Testing. Not cold. Not warm. Just there. And in that frozen, helpless moment, I realized something awful. The eyes hadn't just been watching me. They'd been waiting for me to stop resisting. Waiting for the lights not to matter. For me to fall asleep. And I had. That was the first time I screamed myself awake. I don't even remember how I moved, just that I rolled off the bed, slammed my back into the wall, gasping like I'd broken the surface of deep water. The room was silent. The lights still on. But the covers were still disturbed. Like someone had just slid out from under them and vanished. I didn't sleep the next night. I mean that literally. I didn't even try. No lights off, no lying down. I just sat in the living room chair with my knees pulled up and a baseball bat across my lap, the same one I hadn't touched since the divorce. It had dust on the handle. Like everything else in my life, it had sat unused for too long. At 3:12 a.m., I heard something drop. A soft thud. Not in the bedroom. In the hallway. I stood up with the bat, careful, slow, like the air might shatter if I moved too fast. I held my breath and crept forward. On the floor outside the bedroom door was a photo. It hadn't been there before. I was sure of that. I would have stepped on it. It was an old one. A printed photo, not digital. One of those glossy drugstore prints from years ago. Me and my ex, smiling at a lake. Our dog in the middle. My arm around her. Summer sunlight. But the photo had been ripped in half. Clean, straight through. Only my half lay on the floor. No sign of her. I hadn't looked at that photo in years. It had been packed away in a shoebox under the bed. Under the bed. I picked it up with shaking fingers, looked down the hall into the open door of the bedroom. And something shifted. Not a sound. Not a shadow. Just a wrongness. Like the angle of the room had warped slightly. Like the corners weren't lining up right. I walked back, slowly, and turned on the ceiling light. The bed had moved. Just a few inches. But I could tell. The legs had scraped across the hardwood, new marks, fresh dust disturbed. I knelt down and checked under the bed again. Still empty. But the puck light, the one I'd taped under there, was smashed. Completely crushed. Like someone had pressed down with a palm until it cracked in half. That was when I realized something else. The camera angle from the phone, always from the nightstand. Always pointing toward the bed. Focused on that space underneath. But I'd never pointed it at the rest of the room. Whatever was in here, it was learning. And it was changing its angle, too. I started talking to it. I don't know when, exactly. Maybe it was after the photo. Maybe it was after I found the scratches behind the dresser, long vertical marks, too high to be from any animal. But I caught myself one night, whispering. Just asking questions. Why me? How long have you been here? What do you want? No answers, of course. Not right away. But sometimes the room would creak a second later, like an acknowledgement. Or the light would flicker just once. Enough to feel like a response. I told Marcus what was happening. I finally called him, voice shaking, pacing around the apartment like a caged animal. I didn't even try to hide it anymore. I told him everything, the camera footage, the eyes, the fingers, the photo. The sleep paralysis. He went quiet for a long time. Then he said something I still can't shake. What if it's not under the bed because it's hiding? What if that's where it lives? Like it wasn't intruding. Like I was. I didn't sleep again that night. At 2:58 a.m., I heard a noise that froze my spine. It was my own voice. Whispering. I was standing in the kitchen, lights off, cup of cold coffee in my hands. And I heard it, from the bedroom. Not a recording. Not a playback. My voice. Whispering something I couldn't quite make out. It wasn't on a loop. It wasn't echoing. It was new. I crept down the hall, slowly, knees weak. The whispering stopped the moment I reached the door. The room was dark again. The main light had switched off somehow, though the bulb was still intact. I stood in the doorway, staring into the dim. And then I heard it. From under the bed. A voice, not mine, low and cracked, like dry leaves underfoot. It said, "You looked away first." I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Then, ever so slowly, the mattress began to shift. Something underneath was pushing up. I didn't stay. That night, the whisper, the pressure, that voice that wasn't mine, it broke something in me. I left the apartment at 4:12 a.m. I know the time because I sat in my car for almost 30 minutes before I even turned the key, staring at the front door of the building, waiting for something, anything, to follow me out. But nothing did. The silence felt smug. I drove to Marcus's place. Didn't call. Didn't knock. Just stood outside his apartment until the sun came up, and when he opened the door and saw my face, hollow, white, twitching, he didn't say anything. Just let me in. I stayed on his couch for 2 nights. 2 full nights without the feeling. No tapping. No eyes. No whispering. Just silence, the kind that actually heals instead of haunts. On the 3rd morning, I almost believed it was over. Marcus offered to help me move. Said we could clear the place out, maybe just grab what I needed and leave the rest. I agreed. We got back to my place around 11 a.m. Bright outside. Birds, traffic, the normal world still turning. I told myself that whatever was in there didn't exist in daylight. We started packing. Books. Clothes. Some old electronics. Marcus joked that I was basically a minimalist already, just boxes and dust and stress. I laughed. Sort of. Then he stepped into the bedroom. I was in the kitchen when I heard him say, "Hey man, you did this?" I came in. He was crouched by the bed, looking at the floor. I leaned over. Carved into the wood, deep, uneven, like with a dull knife, were letters. A sentence. "Why did you stop looking?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. Marcus stared at me. He didn't ask again. We packed faster after that. But here's the part one haven't told anyone, not even him. While we were in the living room, taping shut the last box, I walked past the hallway. And out of the corner of my eye, from the gap beneath the bedroom door, I saw the eyes again. Closer this time. Not under the bed. On the floor. Watching me leave. I didn't move back in. Couldn't. Marcus offered to help me find a new place. Said I could stay on his couch until I figured things out. He didn't say what we were both thinking, that I was afraid of the apartment. That I'd been changed by it. Shaken loose from something I'd once trusted, reality. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. Not really. The eyes. The voice. The way the bed moved on its own. The way it waited for me to look away. 2 nights after we packed everything, I went back alone. I didn't tell Marcus. I didn't go in to sleep. Didn't go in to stay. I just had this need. A pull. Like something unfinished was still there, calling me back. Not with words. With silence. I brought a flashlight and nothing else. It was cold inside. Stale. My footsteps sounded too loud on the floor. The place felt abandoned, but only by me, like everything else was still in there, holding its breath. I walked down the hallway to the bedroom. Opened the door. The bed was gone, we'd taken it apart, loaded it out days ago. But the indentation was still there. On the floorboards. As if something heavy had crouched there long enough to leave a mark. An invisible presence. Still sitting. Still watching. I knelt down and ran my fingers along the indent. Dust clung to the edges like a skin. And that's when I saw it. Pressed into the dust, almost too faint to notice, were prints. Not feet. Hands. 2 of them, small and flat and pale with smudged outlines. Fingers long. Splayed out. Facing upward. Like someone had been lying there, arms outstretched. Or waiting. I stood. Backed away. And in that silence, I heard it again. From directly behind me. "You see it now." No wind. No tricks. No echo. Just a dry, certain voice. Close enough to feel the breath on my neck. When I turned around, there was nothing there. But when I left the room, I didn't close the door behind me. Because somehow I knew. It was already outside. It's been 6 weeks. I'm in a new apartment now. Smaller. 3rd floor. No crawl spaces, no creaky wood. I don't own a bed anymore. I sleep on a futon, directly on the floor. Just a lamp, no frames, no furniture with gaps underneath. Nothing that casts a shadow longer than my hand. Marcus checks in sometimes. I tell him I'm okay. I lie. Because something's still wrong. And deep down, I think it followed me. But first, you should know what I found. That night, after I left the apartment, I made a decision. One of those decisions you don't unmake, even if you want to. The next morning, I went to the building manager. I told her I thought someone had been living under my bed. Squatting, maybe? Breaking in? Watching me. I expected her to laugh, or look at me like I was insane. But she didn't. She hesitated. Then she asked what unit I was in. I told her. She was quiet for a moment, then nodded, slowly, like something clicked for her that she didn't want to admit. Then she said, "We used to get complaints. A long time ago. From the tenant before you. She said she heard someone breathing under her bed at night. Said she'd see eyes in the dark, just for a second, and then they'd be gone. I asked what happened to her. The manager shrugged. She stopped responding. Rent fell behind. We finally went in to evict her. I asked if she left anything behind. She paused. Then said, "Just a mattress. On the floor. Slashed open. Stuffed with empty water bottles, food wrappers, hair." Hair. I asked where she went. The manager looked away. No forwarding address. She said she never went in that room again after that. Just hired someone to clean it out. Said she didn't even want the details. But here's what keeps me up now, even on this futon, in a clean new space, with the lights on all night. The manager let slip one more thing, right as I was leaving. She said, "It was weird though. When we cleared the apartment after you moved out." I turned around. And she said, "There was a crawl space under your floorboards we didn't know about. Real narrow. Flattened insulation. Fingerprints on the underside of the boards. Like someone had been laying there. Listening. For years. I check every night now. Not because I think there's something under the bed. But because I know now. There are people in this world who learn how to live underneath. And if they stay quiet long enough, if they move only when you sleep, if they understand your routines better than you do, they don't need a reason. They just need you to stop looking.